Hello everyone, welcome to our new physics talk, solving problems with elastic collisions. This is, if you actually want to do some research in your textbook, this is part of chapter 3, section 6. So this is going to be a series of short videos on how to solve different types of problems. And of course, since our goal is to use math, this is going to use math models to solve elastic collision and momentum problems. We're going to be applying some computation mathematics and paying attention to pattern, scale, and proportion, of course using your calculator. So, elastic collision is basically when you have two objects that are colliding but they bounce off of each other. You start with two objects and you end with two objects, and typically you'll have the initial momentum of one plus the initial momentum of the second one is going to equal to some new momentum and new momentum after the collision. And either we use it like this or we actually plug in MV for each of the p-values and we can actually do the calculations. So our first example is where we have two billiard balls with mass 0.25 kilograms each. So here's one and there's two. They head towards each other, collide with initial velocities and final velocities shown in the diagram. And of course our job is to determine the final velocity of the number 2 red ball. And so 4 meters per second here, 6 meters per second pointing in the opposite direction. And of course after the collision we get 6 pointing in the opposite direction, and then this one is going to be unknown. Alright, so to solve this problem, we can either use this formula here where we're just having all the momentums, initial and final, added together and then compare, or we could just have it broken down as M1, V1, M2, V2, M1, V1, M2, V2, initial and final. And in this case, because we are looking for the final velocity of the red ball, which is this guy over here, then we want to actually use this one because then that'll be V2 for us. So as we plug it in, we know it's 0.25 times 4 plus 0.25 times 6, but this 6 is pointing in the opposite direction, so I gotta put a negative 6 equals 0.25 times, again, because it's pointing in the opposite direction, negative 6 plus 0.25 times V final, V2 final. So I don't know what that is, so I'm going to leave it just like that. Alright, so when we plug that in our calculators, this becomes 1 plus negative 1.5 equals negative 1.5 plus 0.25 times V final 2. All right, so adding that up, we get a negative 0.5 equals negative 1.5 plus 0.25 V final. Solving for this, I got to add 1.5 to both sides. And I get 1 is equal to 0.25 V2 final. Divide both sides by 0.25. And V2 final will equal 4 meters per second. So that's the end of that. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop by our normal office hours.